Okay, so what was your one favorite story when you were coming up in the minors or in the majors? You get to choose, but just the favorite story that you'd love to share.
Here's a story, and I've told it a couple times, not a lot, but it was a major turning point in my career. So most of the time, and now being, a special advisor with the Yankees, I work with our young guys a lot, and so I see this happen. So for myself, I was a pretty good ball player, right? I was drafted in the first round. I had a pretty good college career, and I was kind of shooting up the ranks, right? Kind of just really rushing through them, right, all the way through. And so for myself, I got to Double-A in Midland, Texas. And Midland, Texas, if you've ever been there, no offense to anybody from Midland, Texas, there's not a whole lot of things going down in Midland, right? High school football for sure, no doubt. Midland, Odessa, no doubt. A lot of fun to go to those games. But I'll never forget, I really struggled when I got there. I was our number one prospect. I was like, man, I'm supposed to come up here. I'm supposed to dominate. I'm supposed to just, go right through here. And I really ran into a roadblock. And I don't know whether it was a mental thing or whatever it was, but there would be nights where I'd be sitting out on the balcony of my apartment, taping up bats, just being like, if I do a different tape job, maybe tomorrow I'll get some hits, because I was so focused on the outcome of everything.
Mm.
And my Double-A manager, his name was Greg Sparks, and he was great, dude. He was swaggy. He had he was one of the first guys. He had his pants over his shoes. I mean, he was epic, dude, epic. And he brought me into his office one day, and we had a minor league coordinator. His name was Keith Littman. And Keith Littman was always trying to knock me down a little bit, trying to tell me, you don't have to be Air Swish, right? Just be Nick, right? You don't have to be Air Swish. Just be Nick, right? Which at the end of the day, I guess was kind of trying to make me a little more vanilla at the time. And maybe he was right. But at the end of the day, I'm like, bro, if I want to be Air Swish, bro, I'm going to be Air Swish, So I remember, Greg Sparks took me aside after that meeting, and he was like, listen, man, you ever played wiffle ball? And I'm like, bro, it's like my favorite game growing up. Like I was really good at wiffle ball. And he's like, just think about this game tonight as being a glorified game of wiffle ball. And I was like, I paused for a second, and I was like, well, what do you mean? And he was like, you remember how embarrassing it was when you would strike out in a wiffle ball game? And I was like, bro, I'm not quite sure. I don't know if I've ever struck out in a wiffle ball game. And he was like, exactly. He goes, because the joy and fun that you bring to a wiffle ball game is different than the joy and the fun that you're bringing to the games now. Change your mentality. Change the way you look at the game. And Pam, from right then and there, baby, woo! Then it was like, I'm smiling all the time. That was when it really came out. Because
that's cool.
The more joy I'm having, the better player I am. And that was when everything really shifted for me, was to being able to have someone say, this game ain't nothing more than a glorified game of wiffle ball. It took the pressure of everything off. And it really let me go out there and just be like, I remember I got in the box my first at bat. And this is what, 2002 at the time, 2003. And I remember going out there and looking at the pitcher and being like, bro, you don't even stand a chance today, dude. Like, I'm 0 for my last 15, but I'm going to get you right here, bro, But that's because, number one, somebody just said something to me that just made a lot of sense. And I think that's how coaching is. A lot of people could have said that in a lot of different ways, but the way that he said it to me clicked for me. And that's how I try to coach my young guys. I try to tell them things in ways that they're not used to hearing things, because coaches have a way of saying things, but mentors have a way of saying things differently. And so for myself, I try to be a mentor more than a coach, especially when we're talking about stuff, because, there's nothing about these guys' swings that they don't know about already. But it could be the way you just reiterate to them, maybe this little point that really kind of helps expand that. And so for me, it just blew the roof off and just really let me be free to be myself. And if it wasn't for Greg Sparks, I might have still been in Midland, Texas.
I don't think so, but I hear you. But I feel like it was like this mindset shift where you were like, you know what? And I don't know if this was what it was for you, but my experience of hearing your story, this is how I experienced it. You were that 11-year-old kid playing wiffle ball again, just having fun, childlike, and let go of everything else about it. And you're just like, I'm going back to have fun. That's it.
Because at the end of the day, sometimes that's just what you got to do.
Totally. I love it.
Take it back to grassroots.
Simple.
Really know why you're there. Because at the end of the day, I was there because I loved it. I wasn't there because I was being forced to be there. I was being there because I loved it and I wanted to be there. But then sometimes you got to remember to let that part shine through.
Right. And get rid of the pressure and it has to be like this. And I love that you said it was so outcome focused, because when we focus on the outcome, we usually sabotage the outcome. When we detach from it and surrender, we're like, oh, it's all working out. It's 100%. Awesome.
Right? When you stay process driven, which is obviously what I know now, but being able to be process driven is way better than being outcome driven. For
absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely. And like you said, everything has always worked out for you, even if it's been a rocky, bumpy road.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, like those are when I learned the most about myself. Absolutely. Like when I got my ass kicked, that's when I learned the most about who I was. And if it wasn't for those times, you never know if you're going to be able to pick yourself up by your own bootstraps or not. But when you get knocked down, you have two choices. You can stay down or you can get back up. And I always chose to get back up. But I'm not a fighter. I mean, I have been a fighter, but I fight for things in life. But at the end of the day, I'll be damned if I'm going to be laying down on the job.